Well, hello everybody. It's Danny back from Deepsouth Homestead. Guys, we are enjoying the mornings out here. It is just, it's a really good time of the morning. It's bright, sunny. I mean, that's one thing I'm kind of thankful for, I guess, in the fact that it's cool as it is. We woke up this morning in the 30s, and which is a blessing because I'm shooting this on Sunday morning, really early on Sunday morning, and the sun is about to beat me here. Now, before I get through, you see it right here? I'm trying to stay in the shade and do this before it gets too hot here this morning, because it's amazing just how fast that sun comes over them trees right there, because it used to it come right over here, never hit here till late in the evening. Now that it's gone south, it's nailing this area right here. But anyway, we did go. I'm under the shack out here where we made the cane syrup. We had a couple of little glitches in the system that we designed, but it really let us know where we need to focus on in the future. Nothing major. I just need to. The gear on top of the cane mill is just a little too small. We knew that up front, but that's the only one we could come up with at the moment. I have since located the right gear to go up there. I just have to get it ordered and get it here, and we can change that out. It's not a big issue, and got a couple of more minor things to do. The furnace worked flawlessly. A couple of things we learned on the furnace pan was we're gonna have to have the rings where we can just pick it up off of it and set it off on some sawhorses, because the valve that drains the syrup out of it doesn't drain it out fast enough to get it out of the pan while the heat's underneath it. So we learned that, because I've never really cooked it this way before. It's kind of like cooking maple syrup, just doing the sugar cane that way. The furnace itself worked flawlessly, so we were thankful that the Lord was really good to us on that. The bees did not take us over too bad. Had a problem with a few yellow jackets, which that was to be expected, because they've been here every day. You know, I mean, they done found this is home for them because there's something sweet here. And all of the gadgets that we had, we did learn that we needed to do a little bit. We've done a great job filtering this year. I'm talking about fantastic job filtering. Made cooking it very simple. The syrup turned out completely different than any syrup I ever cooked before. That was a new thing for us. But we're going to build a new filtering system for next year, because we saw where we could improve on what we've done. So that will be in the making now. We kind of designed some new skimmers to use with this type of pan. We have that's on the go. So I mean, we really was a great learning experience. Now, you know, we had Miss Cynthia was here. We had Mr. Tim, Miss Heidi. I sure wish Chris could have been here, because Chris, I was hoping, could have really learned this part of the process, because I always like the younger generation to be able to, you know, to learn. But he had prior engagements and he couldn't make it, so, and that's understandable. But it'll be another year before we do it again, you know. So maybe next year Chris will be able to be here with us, and maybe even bring his cane if he doesn't have a meal. And we just have a great fellowship. Like this time, we had the best fellowship amongst everybody. Good old homemade biscuits and stuff. It was really good. Cane syrup, strawberry fig jelly. I mean, you name it. Those ladies did a fantastic job. And I guess you might say me and Tim were running around here trying to figure out the glitches, you know, and trying to get it all squared away. But we had a great time in the Lord anyway. But, and looking forward to some cooler weather coming in the future here. They talking about we might have actually get some cold weather by the 1st of December sometime. After Thanksgiving Day, there's supposed to be a front coming through, but then there's supposed to be like a really good front coming through it into 1st of December. So that'll be good for the hunting season this part of the year. We're, you know, we're actively trying to get that kind of squared away. We got the facility here now to skin the deer and everything. We're just enjoying what the Lord has blessed us with here at Pecan Grove. But, you know, there's a lot, guys. Me and Mr. Tim were talking about this when he was here the other day making syrup. Actually, it was Tim who looked at me and he said, you know, Danny, he said, there's going to come a day when you and I will probably never see each other again. And I said, you know, it's funny you mentioned that to me, because here a while back I told Chris about a couple of weeks ago, I looked at him and I said, Chris, you know, there's going to come a day when you and I are not going to see each other again. And I thought that was ironic that the Lord had laid that on Tim's heart, just like He'd laid it on my heart to tell Chris. Tim told it to me. And that is, you know, we're going to come to that day where we're not going to be able to leave our places and just go do what we used to do. And that's going to be it's going to be a challenging time for a lot of people. But Tim and I talked about that, you know, and I think we're both, him and Heidi and me and Wanda, I think we're pretty much okay with that, because we're getting our places set up to where we really don't need the outside world so much. We're trying to get as self-sufficient as possible. And there's no such thing as being 100% self-sufficient, because there'll always be something that you need. But we can get to a point where we're comfortable enough that we can survive, you know, and that's why I've been actively working with Chris as much as I can, so that when something happens, you know, Chris is a little bit more educated. Being a young guy, he has the knowledge to move forward and be a little as self-sufficient as he possibly can. Him and his wife Jennifer. And that's why we do YouTube right now. I mean, guys, I'm just being honest with you. I'm trying to tell you, that's why we have not stopped YouTube. Now, there's been many times I told Wanda, I said, look, it's, you know, I'm in my mid-60s. I've retired, and I retired when I was 50. And I said, and now I probably work more now than I did when I was working. And I told her, I said, you know, but it's a calling from the Lord to continue to do YouTube. Because the Lord's trying to help us to get the word out to as many people as we can, and to show as many people as we can the different processes of life that our forefathers done. Now, I'm in no wise a genius when it comes to all these processes, like cooking the syrup, for instance. This was a total, I mean, I've cooked syrup my whole life. I have done it multiple ways with multiple different people as a learning experience. I mean, I still have a 14-foot stainless steel evaporator pan that I would love to see somebody use, you know, but I've not been able to find anybody who wants one. And it just sits over at Deepsouth Homestead, just sits there. And it breaks my heart that thing's over there, and there's nobody to use it out there. I have tried to sell it, and it's just like nobody's interested anymore in the old-fashioned way of doing anything. It's just that I don't need to cook that large of a quantity of syrup anymore. Now, the pan can be cut down and could be made into a smaller pan. It could be cut down to a 12-foot or maybe even a 10-foot and still work perfectly fine. I just don't have the whereabouts to do it now. Years ago, I did have, but I don't have now. But, you know, the world we live in today, everybody is just waiting and hinging. Everything is hinging on something else. And they're waiting for the next new thing to happen. And that's like we was in the live stream the other night. Wanda said what she did, and I told her, I said, you're stealing my porch time, you know, because that's what I wanted to really, that was my thought for this week, was the Lord had laid on my heart the next new thing. Because we're sitting here now, and now we've got this issue that's escalating in the east over there with Ukraine and Russia. And actually there's more countries involved in that, and don't get hung up on the fact that Russia did this and Russia did that, because technically there was some other countries that was involved in that. So and everybody's glued to the TV, kind of like when 9/11 happened. Everybody was glued to the TV to see the next new thing. I mean, what's next? What's next? That's the age that we live in today. we cannot be satisfied with just knowing the facts. You know, we have to be. We're impatient. You know, we talking about being impatient. We talked to Chris about this when he was over here eating with us the other day, and he was like, "Miss Wanda," he said, "that's the best sweet potatoes. Oh my gosh, them sweet potatoes is good." And we were telling him, said, "Yeah, you put them in the oven, you know, at like say 300 degrees or 250, and you cook them for like 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours sometimes." He goes, "What? That long?" And we're like, "Yeah, if you want a good sweet potato, you got to cook it slow and cook it for a long period of time, you know." And he was saying, "Wow," he said, "I only cook mine for maybe an hour, you know, 45 minutes to an hour." I'm like, "No, no, no, no." I was like, our grandparents, like our grandmothers, when they cooked on the old wood stoves, our great grandmothers, I mean, they put a pot of beans on. They soaked them overnight first, and there was a reason for soaking them overnight. Most people think, well, that was just to swell them up and to make them soft. No, that was not the reason behind that. See, dry beans are loaded with lectins, and lectins are what causes leaky gut syndrome. If you look at, if you just do the research on it and look it up, you'll find that there's lots of stuff out there with lectins in it, and lectins are what destroys your gut. Now, you can get rid of lectins out of a lot of the stuff. Simply like say the dry beans, like the red kidney beans are the worst. You soak them overnight, and the next morning you take that water and you pour it out. And then when you pour that out, you're getting rid of a lot of the lectins out of it. And then when you boil them, then that gets rid of most all the lectins out of it. You don't get rid of the protein, but you get rid of the lectins. And same thing with lots of other foods like canning. Pressure canning gets rid of lectins. Different things like that gets rid of all this stuff out of the food that destroys your gut. I mean, that's why our forefathers, they knew, they may not have known what they were doing, but they knew that's how that people stayed healthy, was by doing that. They may not have known the science behind it, but they knew to do it. And like yesterday, Wanda went and picked a whole big mess of greens out of the field up there, and come home, soaked them in salt water, you know, because that's what you do. If there's any insects in any of those green leaves, and you soak them in some really heavy salted water for about an hour or so, like that, maybe 2 hours, all those bugs will die and they'll float to the top of the water. You slosh the leaves around, the bugs will come to the top of the water. You can get them all off of there, and then your greens are clean. You don't have to do all this spraying with chemicals and all this kind of stuff to get the bugs off. Don't worry about the bugs. The salt water will take care of that. Just wash them good in the salt water and they're gone. You don't have to worry about all these chemicals spraying them. That's what the big G government wants us to believe. You got to spray the heck out of everything to get rid of the bugs, and that's just not true. But you know, like we were talking about, everybody's focusing on what's going on across the water over there, and rightfully so, because what's going over there is going to determine what happens over here, because we're all global now. Everything's one big system now. And they're pushing so hard to get us into the new digital system by 2025 and taking our cash away from us, so that we don't have the right to go around to, you know, and see something that somebody has and says, "Hey man, I'll just give you cash for that," you know, and they're like, "Oh, okay," you know, and we just don't have. That's going to be taken away from us, and that'll be one of the next new things. And people's like freaking out about all the new things that's fixing to happen. I mean, you know, we got the digital system coming. We got all this new nuclear technology that's out there, guys. I've seen some of it. It's mind blowing as to some of this technology that's out there. You know, you take the big things that. I ain't gonna call the country that did it, but there was a country across the water that launched an ICBM, and there's one country that is being blamed on, which probably wasn't as involved as most people think. But this ICBM, you know, had these like what did it have? Like it has a head on it that can carry nukes and stuff like that, but this one had the head that was on it. It just had blanks. I call them blanks because it wasn't armed like they were. They were MIRVs, and those MIRVs, there were like 8 of them, or I think it was, it shot off of the head of it, And one of those MIRVs, had it been nuclear, could have took Ukraine virtually almost off the map. And there were 8 of them on it. You know, so that's where we're at today, is the simple fact that we have the technology today to create weapons of mass destruction. And guys, every country, I sit and listen to the conversation between Putin and his cabinet, and how he was praising them for, you know, all their advancements, and how that nobody in the world had the technology that they had now, and all this kind of stuff. And very chilling conversation, if you want to know the truth about it. And even nations are looking for the next new thing, because what happens is that he told his cabinet that he said, you know, now that we have this technology, we've got to continue to advance, because now that it's out there, that we have it, other nations are going to build upon this really, really quick. So, and what he's saying is, we've got to move forward to the next new thing. In other words, we've got to get something that's even more destructive than that is now. And that's going to eventually be the demise of man, is focusing on the next new thing. And that's the way our minds in this modern society has been programmed. The iPhones, the you know, the smartphones, and all this kind of stuff. Everybody's raving about, well, what is it, iPhone 15 now or 16 that's out there. You know, everybody wants the next new thing when it comes out. They're hawked to the hilt with the last phone they bought. They spent like $1,000 on a stupid little old bitty piece of phone that took $11.46 to make, and yet they spend thousands of dollars on these phones. And the thing about it is, you're not buying a phone. The phone costs less than $15 to make. You're buying the right to use that phone. And these companies are competing with one another for your dollars, and the way they're doing it is simply by making it look like this is the next new thing to come out. And people are flocking to it. You know, they tell you, oh, if you bring your phone in today and trade it in, we'll take $800 off your next bill. Who in their right mind? Stop and think about this. When we were younger people, those of us that are up in age a little bit, if somebody had told you 40 years ago that you would be spending between $500 and $1,500 on a telephone, you would have looked at them and told them, you're about as crazy as a bat out of Hades. You know, there's no way that I would ever spend that kind of money on a phone. And yet today, because we can finance them, and we can set up a plan, because you see, it's, I have some declassified documents here in the house that talks about that plan. Actually began back in the late 1930s. How these things would be created, and guys, this technology we had in the 40s, okay, and that how we would advance this through the society of humanity, and how that we would implement this stuff, and we would make people want it. It's kind of like the new digital system that's coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys, you're going to beg for it. Okay? A lot of people go, oh, there's no way on earth I'll never go for this new digital system. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. You're going to come to a point you'll beg for it. And that's the sad part, because they're going to do something to the system that we have now. I'm just trying to, guys, I'm talking a parable or a riddle or whatever you want to call it. They're going to do something to the new system, to the system we have now, to make it where you're extremely vulnerable, and that all your finances could be wiped away instantly, and you're going to go, well, what do I need to do? I mean, how am I going to protect my assets? How am I going to protect my finances? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And they're going to go, but we have a new system. And this system utterly guarantees that no one can tamper with. And people are going to get in line. They're going to beg for this new system. And it's going to make it very easy for them to be able to implement it. I mean, they're masters at being psyops, and they're masters at altering the thinking of humanity. The people that are actually engaged in this, they're masters at it. And yet we think that it's they do it in a way, it's kind of like, I mean, I was trained and have the ability to talk in conversations where I can carry on a conversation with someone and make them think it was their idea. You know, I mean, and because it's just, it's a training that you can get and go through. And the powers to be are masters at this, at making people think, well, this was my idea, when really, no, it was not your idea. It was a plan created back in the late 1930s, early 40s, right before the end of the Second World War, for today. Agenda 20, Agenda 2021, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050. This is not new. This stuff has been in the making for, 60 years or more. I knew about Agenda 21 in the early 90s, and I actually, there's a few states in the United States that it was implemented in. Oregon was one of the top places, up around Seattle up there. It was one of the first places that they implemented Agenda 21 in. And where I live down here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast now, we're under Agenda 21. We were after Hurricane Katrina. It was a plan. It was implemented after the hurricane destroyed everything down here. In order to get the money to rebuild with, they had to sign us under Agenda 21, which put us under international code, which I'm very familiar with the international code. And all of this stuff leads us to the next new thing. And the next new thing is what's going to get everybody in trouble. In the Bible, it talks about there's going to be people that goes, Christ is in the desert. And people are going to flock to the desert. Christ is on the mountain, and they're going to flock to the mountains. And the Bible tells us, don't do it. Don't do it, Literally, everybody is so geared. The scripture tells us that people are going to be looking for a sign at the end. And all you see right now is people, oh, well, I saw this, or I saw that happen, or everything's a sign now. There's a new sign, a new prophecy, a new sign. Guys, this is nothing more than prophetic teachings for the end times. There are no new prophecies, okay? Now there are some prophetic events that must take place that are spoken of in the scriptures, mainly Matthew 24, a lot of them in Revelation, some over in Daniel, Ezekiel, Joel, Isaiah. We've got these different Bibles that prophetic events are spoken of in there. Some have already come to fruition, some have not, And that's the reason people always go, well, the Lord's going to return tonight or tomorrow. He could return tonight or tomorrow. And I look and I go, he could, because he's God. Okay? But if he keeps his word and goes according to the scriptures, no, he will not, because he has not done this yet, or he has not fulfilled this prophecy yet. And that's why he tells us, when you see the fig tree blooming or blossoming, you know that summer is near. And it doesn't tell you that summer's there. It just says summer is near. Much like in Matthew 24, when the disciples said, Lord, what are the signs of the end of thy coming? And he said, well, he goes through the wars, rumors of wars, all the pestilences, diseases, all this kind of stuff. Those are things we've had since Christ died, really. But not in the number that we're going to have now. But most people stop right there. You got to inch on forward a little bit in those scriptures right there. He says, but the end is not yet. So when we see all these things happening, we think, oh, he's fixing to come right now. Well, he could, but he's got to finish fulfilling his prophecy. And because of that, when you see these things and you know the end is near, guys, that's when he says, look up. Your redemption draweth nigh. We're there. Just keep looking up. Forget about the junk in the world. Forget about all this stuff that's going on in the world. Prepare, first of all, your soul. for its eternity. Because, I mean, we live here on this earth between, I don't know, the normal life expectancy is 62 years. A lot of people don't make it that far. Some make it up to 90-something. Some even make it to 100. But that's a very, very short period of time. If you don't believe me, look at how old you are now and look back and go, wow, time is flying by. It's a very short period of time in history compared to eternity. Eternity's forever. I mean, time was put here for mankind, not for God. God doesn't need time. It doesn't mean anything to him because it's just irrelevant to him. Time is here for our benefit, not God's. And once the Lord allows the angel that will cause time to cease to exist, then we will be into eternity. And I would whole lots rather take care of eternity and be more concerned about it than I am right now. You know, that's the reason I'm prepared to go. I know where my destination is. My destination is with my Father, and I have no doubts about that whatsoever. I'm as assured of that as if I'm already there. And guys, that's what you need to be too. You need to be sure. Get your soul ready first, and then, you know, people say you can't take anything to heaven with you. You came here with nothing. You came here naked, no teeth, very little hair, and naked, you know, and not able to see very good. When you leave this world, most people leave with very few teeth, very little hair, you know, and old and wrinkly. When you come here, you're young and wrinkly. I mean, there's so many similarities to the beginning and the end of your life. It's like you're once a man, but you're twice a child. You know, somebody leads you around by the hand when you're born, and when you get old, somebody leads you around by your hand. When you're young, somebody puts a diaper on you. When you're old, somebody puts a diaper on you. I mean, there's so many similarities between the beginning and the end of your life that it's kind of funny how it is. You just get to live the middle part of it. And we've got to stop and we've got to take that into consideration. You know, that life is not forever here upon this earth. So it's better to live holy, as holy as you can. I mean, we're born into sin. We're going to sin. We know that, and we just have to ask for forgiveness. But do the best we can do, you know, with our lives, and try to be as godly as we can be, and try to give God the best that we can have. And guys, when that day comes for us, it's a graduation day. It's not the end for us. Now, it's sad when we lose people, but it's not the end. We're all going to get to see each other again one day. If we're born again believers, we're going to get to see each other again. It'll be in a different ramification, but we'll get to see each other. We get to see our loved ones, and we get to be with them. And that's why you see bickering between Christian brothers and sisters today. They fight, they can't get along, they move over and start a new church next to them. Guys, when you get to heaven, you gotta be with these people. Why not get along now? Because when you get to heaven, I mean, it's like you're going to be there in eternity with them. You know, it's not like you're going to be able to hide behind a street sign somewhere and say, I don't want nothing to do with them people over there. That ain't going to go on in heaven. You know, I mean, so why not just do what's right now? You know, be like a duck. Just let it roll off your back. I mean, it don't mean nothing, you know. And guys, don't get hung up on the next new thing going on in the world. Don't get hung up on the next new religion. Hey, there's new religions out there. There's new signs. You watch people how they hold their hands, you know, up here doing this kind of stuff, holding all their hands up, doing these signs, and the different things. You see them holding their fingers down. There's a whole lot of new signs going on in the world today. And it's a new thing. It's a new fad, they think. No, it actually means something. It's ushering in something that people are not even aware that they're ushering in. So, don't get hung up on the next new thing. Because the next new thing will probably be the thing that brings our demise. The sun is just about to get me here on this swing here. It's getting pretty warm sitting here. So I got to get off. I got to get up and get out from here before I get nailed like I did last time. And it actually almost made me sick when it got up around my face because of what's going on with the solar system. And that's not good. We're in solar cycle 25. We're in a solar maximum right now. We got some events fixing to happen here. Could be before the end of this year. Let's pray that it's not, but it's quite possible we could see some issues before the end of this year. And I hope not. I really hope not. I hope we can be able to have a very pleasant Thanksgiving, a very pleasant holiday season, and I'm sure hoping that we don't have any problems. I got yellow jackets all around me here, guys. That syrup is still here, and they're buzzing everywhere. So let me get up and get out of here. Love y'all. Thank you for spending time with us here on Porch Time today. It means a lot to us when we can sit down and we can share conversation. We can glean from one another. Remember, there's power in collective prayer. When you get together and you have fellowship, there's power in fellowship. That the Lord said, when you in the latter days of the age, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean in a church building somewhere. That means don't forsake the assembling of brothers and sisters in Christ together. Don't forsake getting together for fellowship. You know, like we did here around the syrup furnace thing here. That was fellowship. God's people need that. They need fellowship amongst like-minded people. So don't forsake that, because it really is needed. Don't be one of them kind of people that's, I'm going to move off into the mountains and I'm going to live by myself and I don't want nobody bothering me and I don't want nobody coming around and I'm going to just be by myself up there, me and my wife and my kids, and you'll be the first to die, okay? You'll be the first to die. I'm just going to tell you. I used to teach survival, and I can tell you what, it takes 11 people to hold down an area, okay? I'm not going to go into that. I have a video on that called 156 hours or something like that. Way back on YouTube somewhere back yonder. I speak about that concept of about 11 people and how it actually all plays out and how you actually can keep a place secure. 11 is the minimum that it takes. So anyway, let me get off of here before the sun gets me and the yellow jackets try to bite me, and see if I can't get up and get a few things done this morning. And we'll see y'all guys in the next video. Thank you from Deepsouth Homestead.